Hello, so today we're going to be talking about ranking up. This is going to be the per set rank up guide with some examples and tips for each rank. This is going to give a general framework that kind of gives you an idea of things you can focus on in each rank in order to slowly learn the different parts of TFT to eventually become the best player that you can be, which is the whole point of what I do on this channel. When I'm talking about TFT, right, there's a lot of things that you have to learn in TFT in order to become a really good player, right? TFT, some people say it's really easy, but, a lot of times you have to learn stuff like units, set mechanics, traits, augments, compositions, matchups, positionings, items, econ management, leveling intervals, off-tempo levels, greed, playing tempo, AP/AD flex, rerolls, 1, 2, and 3 costs, meta changes, counter meta strategies, rolling down. There's so much. The list can go on and on and on. I can fill slides and slides and slides of all the different topics that you can cover, of information that you can use in order to better your strategy in TFT, because ultimately TFT is a strategy game, and that's what I do on this channel, right? If you're returning for my channel, you would have seen already, I basically post a daily guide on TFT. It's not just like, sometimes it's VOD reviews, sometimes it's for fun stuff like tier lists and like, some cool stuff that I try and do. There's gonna be some new reaction stuff to the set 15 stuff coming out, but in general, I'm basically going over a different concept in TFT every single day, or talking about different comp or how to play different things, different patches, updates to meta, things like that. So if you want to truly learn about TFT and you want to learn every single thing, there's a plethora of information that just my channel alone has given, and there's lots of other channels that also have similar things that do similar information. It's just to say there's a lot of things to learn about TFT, and guess what? In set 15, there's going to be a whole nother list of these. We already have to start out with set 15, that they're changing the mechanics of how units function and how they gain mana and all of that stuff, right? And that's like even more advanced stuff. But in general, make sure to like and subscribe if you like my content. We have our sub goal for 10,000 subs. Anyways, in TFT, ranks are a little bit weird. Maybe I find that they're a little bit weird compared to some other games that I've played with rank systems. A lot of that is because like getting a higher rank becomes easier as the set goes on, because the way that the kind of set works is that everybody gets reset to 0. So as the set goes on, people kind of achieve what would be like their real rank or their true rank, and it kind of spaces out a lot more. So like playing on day 1 of a set, you might get like hard stuck in plat, for example, versus like day 60 of a set, where then all the players that are better than plat won't be in plat anymore, and then you have a much easier time ranking up, in addition to like players removing themselves from the game. And then also there's breakpoints, right? Like especially up until masters, you can't fall below certain breakpoints, right? If you hit emerald, diamond, something else, you're not going to drop back down to the previous rank. So a lot of times, like, there's like an amount of forward progress that you can have. You can have like a meta or an idea that really plays into your strategies, rank up a lot on one patch, and then the next patch things change, things that you didn't really learn or aren't super familiar with become really prevalent, and then you have a lot harder of a time ranking up. So it has like these awkward breakpoints. That is all to say, I don't really care too much about numerical numbers. I think a lot of people do, and obviously if you're watching this video, you will. I always recommend, especially if you're a beginner player, you should care more about whether you're making good decisions and if you're the best player in the lobby. A lot of people, like, if you're playing TFT to just rank up in the most degenerate way you can think of, that's another thing you can do. That's like a for fun thing that you can try. But if you're actually trying to improve at the game and take the most out of the game and become the best at the game and do your absolute best in the game, just make sure that you're always making good decisions, and look around. If you're not the best player in the lobby, evaluate, why are you not the best player in the lobby? What are the other players doing that you are not doing? And don't just chalk it down to like, it's luck and it's not luck, because the same top 10 players are on the ladder every single set. If it's just luck, are they just lucky players? How is it that the same challenger players are always challenger? It's that they have the certain skill sets that lets them get to that rank, and that's what's really important. You have to come to terms with that in order to improve at the game, which is something that's maybe a little bit difficult, but always look for your own mistakes and make sure you're the best player in the lobby. Now let's talk a little bit about learning curves before we go into the per rank stuff. A lot of times with learning curves, there's different types of ways you can learn the game, right? A lot of times you can play in a way where you learn a lot of, like, let's say like all of these, it's going to be like rank is going to be on this side, and then this side's going to be like time, right? The axes, right? You can play and you can spend a lot of time just focusing on a lot of nuances, a lot of fine details, focusing on every aspect of the game and trying to learn them all at the same time. A lot of times what will happen is you're going to be very overloaded, learning a lot of stuff at once, and then eventually you're just going to skyrocket, because once everything kind of clicks and the dominoes all fall in place together, you can rank up really fast towards the end. There's other ways, like if in a certain patch you find something that's particularly strong, you can just instantly kind of apply a lot of rank up, and then you can get stuck because if that one thing that you learned becomes a lot worse or doesn't work out that well, then you have to spend the same way in the first graph, you have to spend a lot of your time learning some new aspects of the game in order to improve or see any viable improvements. What I always recommend when you're trying to learn the game is you should learn different aspects at different times and slowly offload the amount of information that you have to gain in order to slowly make repeated improvements. It's similar to like going to a gym or like doing anything in life. You want to see a lot of forward progress. You don't want to ever feel like you're in a large portion of being stuck at one point, because then it feels like you're not making progress and then it becomes frustrating and unfun. A lot of times what helps a lot, especially when you're first starting out in TFT, like what I would say is this is like, you know, like your silvers, your bronze, your gold, your plat, even up until like maybe diamond master, right? You want to always be seeing like steady progress, or at least be making adjustments to your gameplay that allow you to have repeated forward progress, so that you're not just like in a part where you just like feel like you're helpless and you're just hard stuck in a bad spot. We might talk about getting hard stuck. I think I already made a guide on it on my channel. You can, if you're ever curious about a guide, if I made one in the past, I pretty much made one on every single topic, but you can just use the search function on YouTube, and then there will be one of those in the past, right? But either way, when you're talking about TFT, something that's really important as well, you always want to make sure you take breaks. You want to make sure that you're having fun, and you want to make sure that you're happy, right? It's not said enough, but I think it's really important. A game is a game for fun, right? You should only be playing the game if it's making your life better and you're having fun with it. A lot of people treat TFT or games in general like they just want to live their life instead of looking out a window and seeing the beautiful world that exists in life and everything. They just spend their time looking through the window that is the League of Legends client, and you tie your entire self-worth to a bunch of pixels that really don't matter. Nobody's ever really gonna care, right? And like, you know, in 10-20 years, are you gonna look back and say, wow, I was really happy just being upset for like a whole summer straight playing a game that I didn't particularly enjoy? And it's like, you know, some people like that, I guess, but like you want to make sure that you're still having fun, and when things aren't fun, you don't want to necessarily like continue to like put yourself in a bad spot, because it's just not going to be good. That's not what a game is meant to do. So I just want to always put that out there. I want to make it very clear, and I say that a lot on this channel and otherwise. I myself have this problem as well, because like, you know, for example, I didn't really like the current set. I've listed the reasons a lot in the past, and you know, I still had to play it because of this YouTube channel, or else I just have to accept my YouTube channel dying. So it became very chore-like for me this set, but I remedied that by just playing significantly less, which we'll talk about later, and taking like really big breaks in between because I was really busy with other stuff. Anyways, TFT Success 101, you'll usually want to have two of the three things. I'm just going to throw this slide in here. Money, board value, HP. I talked about it in a lot of my other guides. It's back here for a little bit. Now, let's talk about the actual ranks, and let's give some tips for each of the ranks, right? We'll start with iron, bronze, and silver. I don't know how to separate these ranks. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't think I'm well equipped to separate iron players from bronze players from silver players, because when I first started the game, I pretty much instantly made it to silver. I don't mean that as a flex. I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad if you're in any of these ranks. It's just that it kind of all mushed together for me, and I think that was a common experience because there was a little bit less rank separation. Like Emerald didn't exist before, so it was just like kind of like this thing. And also I played other strategies type stuff in the past, so I watched a lot of TFT tournaments, so I had a bit of an understanding. But when you're in these ranks, the first thing you should always look for is enjoying the game, right? You shouldn't just start a game to play the game because you want to get a high rank so you can pretend or show your friends that you're good at something. It's like, it doesn't matter, right? It will, trust me, it just won't matter. What you really want to do is pick the game because you enjoy the game. So when you're in these ranks, make sure you're focusing on the different aspects of it and see if this is truly a game for you, and if you actually are having fun, or if you're just playing it because somebody else you know is playing it, or your crush at school plays TFT, so you want to like show off that you're like high rank so you can double up with her or something. You know, don't do that, right? Focus on the game, right? When you're learning the game, especially because there's so many things to learn in TFT, there's like different comps, there's different things. What you should usually focus on is maybe one comp or two comps at most. Just pick whatever comp you think is cool. Maybe pick one that people say is strong. Look at a website, look at like a review, like what you want of mine, and I'll say like, hey, this comp is pretty strong right now. Just pick one or two comps and reroll if possible, just because it front loads a lot of your decision making. If you're playing reroll, you're playing around low cost units. You don't have to worry as much about econ because you're spending your econ earlier, so you don't get punished as hard if you misuse your econ because you're using your econ ahead of time. If you focus on 1 or 2 comps, you can then, I'm not saying it because like it's a skill thing. What I'm saying is, if you're starting the game, there's so many things to learn. By just focusing on 1 or 2 comps, you can spend your brain power learning about the other things, the mechanics, shop rerolls, looking at the team planner, scouting. There's many aspects of the game which I cover across my entire channel that you would then want to focus on and get those skill sets up. Because learning a bunch of different comps or having a bunch of comps open and playing a bunch of comps, it's really just going to muddy the water a lot of times. You really want to focus in on a couple little things and then do that. And this is what worked for me, right? When I first started playing, I played Tristana reroll in set 9, and I played Tristana reroll I think like 8 out of 10 games, or like, 16 out of 20 games, and I just played Tristana reroll all the way up until gold, because I was just worried about learning all the other aspects: item slams, item economies, matchups, positioning, leveling, all of those other things. I spent that time learning on and developing those skills, because those are things that are going to be more useful, especially later in the game. Right? When you're thinking about a comp that's easy to play, think about strong vertical traits. So those are comps that play around multiple of the same unit. So for example, if I'm looking at a certain comp, something like Exotech, this is a lot easier of a comp to play because they're all the same units. They all look the same. They all kind of like, you know what I mean? Like Exotech, you're just playing all the Exotech units. What's my team comp? All the Exotechs, right? It's very easy compared to something like, Dynamo Misfortune. It's like, okay, well now I have this, I have this, I have this. You're lighting up the entire left side of your screen. It becomes very confusing. It's like, when do I play Renekton? What if I don't have Renekton? Who do I put in place of Renekton? What if I don't have Kabuko? Who am I playing? This is a very complicated comp that's going to be a lot more difficult, because not something you can easily just play out of nowhere, versus something like this or a reroll where, like this is an example of both. Right? You have a reroll unit that's your 3-starring low cost unit, you're rolling early, and then they're all the same units. What am I playing? I'm playing all the Slayers. Okay, I just click all the Slayer units. Easy, right? Twisted Fate, similar idea. Those are comps that are going to be a little bit more beneficial, especially when you're starting out in the game. Additionally, you want to play more when you're comfy, right? You can play more comps. You can still try all this stuff. I'm just saying what worked for me as an experience for everybody else. Another thing is download Blitz, right? When you're starting out in the game, there's things like Blitz. This is blitz.gg. I'm not sponsored or anything. There's lots of different websites like this. This is just the one that I used when I was originally starting to play. Basically, these are in-game overlays, right? So they'll say stuff like, who are you playing up next? There'll be things where you can have like an overlay of the composition and the units, right? It will tell you like the info of the units. It will tell you stuff like how much gold your lobby has, what level your lobby is. It just gives you tools that you don't have to scout as much or focus as much or tab out into a different web page or whatever you're using to like learn about whatever comp you want. It will literally give you like tips and like what units to play and what items to put on them inside your game client, like while you have your game on full screen. So it's a lot more beneficial, I would say, if you're beginning, because you don't have to spend so much time distracting yourself from the actual game. So I always recommend these if you're trying to play the game. It's not cheating. Trust me, if you're in silver and you look around, you can literally know what everybody is playing based on like what best matches the blitz.gg page, because when I was playing in silver, literally everybody was playing off Blitz. Like you can literally tell. It was like, oh yeah, this guy's playing that comp. I can tell because it looks exactly like that comp, right? Like everybody's using it. So, just it's fine, right? Next, let's talk about getting to gold. So gold, obviously, like silver gold is where majority of the players find themselves. So I think when you're in gold is where you start to like branch out and actually like develop the skill sets that are going to set you up for the future of TFT. And that is like not necessarily focusing on one comp. Of course, if you're in gold, I say again, still use Blitz, download Blitz, or something else, right? I say Blitz because that's what I know and I'm used to. Of course, you can use anything that you want as long as it's like an in-game overlay, something that you have in-game, so you're not tabbing out or like focusing on 2 different screens at once. You want to be very focused on everything that's going on the TFT screen. What I would recommend when I was in gold, the first thing is that you want to focus on comps for AD and AP, right? So if you don't know what the difference is, AD comps, these are ones that use like swords, like their attack damage, they use the orange stat. AP use the purple stats. They focus on magic casters and typically and doing AP damage, right? The idea is that you want to be able to start to learn how to pivot and play around multiple comps at once. So for example, if I'm thinking about an AD comp, Zeri, for example, is an AD comp because she mostly does AD damage. You can see a lot of these are like based on auto attacks or giving her bonuses to attack damage. Something like Cyber Boss, for example. I don't think it's a particularly strong comp, but like whatever. If you're playing Cyber Boss, you can see that's more AP focused, right? They're dealing with more ability power, and it's about a casting unit that's trying to do a bunch of damage with their ult using the purple stat. The idea is that when you're looking at these types of comps, sorry, it's on set 15 already, set 14. When you're looking at different comps, you want to try and establish like different angles so that if somebody else looks like they're playing the same comp as you, you can play the other one. So for example, let's say you start the game off and you have a bunch of swords. Well, I can play Aphelios or I can play Zeri, right? These are AD units. So if you have both of these types of comps in your toolkit, like you know of a comp that uses Aphelios really well, and you know of a comp that uses Zeri really well, you can look around. If everybody's playing Zeri, play Aphelios. If everybody's playing Aphelios, play Zeri. If there's an equal amount of both, pick the one that you hit. But having one or two options for both AP and AD, then no matter what items you get dropped at the beginning of the game, you will be able to say to yourself, okay, I'll play this, or I'll play that, or I'll play this, or I'll play that. That's the idea, and that's like a really good skill set that you should try and develop when you're in gold. At least that's how I did it when I was in gold. You can do this early, you can do it later. I'm trying to give a framework based on my own experiences when I was first learning the game. Additionally, you want to learn to slam items. Slamming items is very important. A lot of times people make lots of jokes. When somebody has a full item bench with a bunch of components on them, people will be like, oh my gosh, they're like a gold player. They don't have any of their items slammed. A lot of times, I don't mean it as a big insult, but it's true. When you start out the game, you don't really want to slam all your items because it's committable, right? Obviously, if you have a bunch of components, you want to make the perfect items, right? It's like, what do I make here? It's like, I want the perfect items for my perfect comp because my perfect unit won't work unless they have perfect items. That's not true. You want to learn how to build around the items that you're given, play around them, make flexible items that build towards the units that you're playing on your board currently, your current upgrades, but then also have potential for items later in the game. If you want to know more about slamming items, I have a lot of different item guides on my channel, right? I have the item guides from set 13 that is like a 4-part series. I also made a couple this set for set 14 that are a little bit more informative on like the current meta and the current set, right? Like components and how they work and stuff like that. Check out some of those guides and I guarantee you they will help you out at some point. But the idea is that you should never really be having too many components on your bench. Unless you're playing for a giga first win out that you're going full lose streak, it's almost always better to start making items. And even if they are the incorrect items, that's part of learning, right? If you make items and later you're like, my items don't do anything, I don't know what I'm doing, that's something you can look at and then look at the items that you made and say, should I have made this item or should I have made that item? Don't worry too much about everything fitting a guide and being the perfect item. Just understand what items could be good on a unit, have a set of items for those units. So for those two comps that you're playing, for example, Zeri, right? What items do you want on Zeri? Well, you really want to have a Guinsoo, so make sure you have a Guinsoo. But then besides Guinsoo, what are the items? Well, one of them is your extra tech item maybe. One of them is maybe something else. Know what the options are, right? Do I want to go for damage amp? Damage amp is fine. Do I want to go for a crit? Do I have pulse stabilizers? Then like something like a striker's flail is really good. Do I not have crit? If I have IE components, do I make IE? Right? You just want to make items that make sense. Then of course, you know, everybody's like, oh, Turbo Bis Zeri is Guinsoo Krakens. Well, it's like, what if you don't have the items for a Kraken? Are you just gonna sit there and not make any items? Right? Like, you know, understand where items can be used and what they can work with, right? If I don't have any Kraken components and I have sword and I have glove, it's like, am I just gonna sit there and just like say, okay, well, sword glove, that's gonna be what? It's always gonna be something that's like an AD item, right? Just make IE, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. It's like, what else are you gonna make with it? You could make a TG for a unit later, but the sword is always gonna be used as a backline item. Just make a backline item with it, right? It's like stuff like that. You want to learn what's acceptable and you want to just make stuff, because the HP that you save by making stuff is going to help you a lot more. And that's something that's really important, like as you rank up in gold, because having HP advantages and understanding what items can be made for certain comps is going to help you, and it's going to make it a lot more easy, as opposed to just like, my guide says no, so I don't do that. GG. Right? That's at least what I would say. Also, utility items, this is a slide you can just screenshot if you want. Utility items are also usually pretty good to make. This is a little bit outdated because obviously Void Staff replaced Static Shiv. But, you know, of course, that's just something you can take into mind as items that are sometimes, or typically items that are safe to make, right? Ones that work with your team. Now, let's talk about getting to Platinum, right? With Platinum, when I was in Platinum, at this point, I kind of had, right, if you're following this framework that I'm kind of displaying here, you know, we learned a lot about like playing different comps. We're learning and we're getting better at slamming items, right? So now we should have items. We should have HP advantage from playing around items a lot. We should know 1 or 2 comps. So if we're contested, we can play one, A or B, and kind of play whichever one we think is particularly great. But when we get to plat, something that's going to matter a lot is focusing on econ, right? Econ is the main variance mechanic in TFT. Like if you have econ or if you have a lot of gold, you will have less variance, right? The more gold you have, the more gold you have to level up, the more gold you have to roll, the more gold you have to upgrade your units, the more gold you have to construct a board that actually functions correctly. So managing econ, learning about econ is extremely important. It's not something you just learn instantly. It's something that you really have to focus on because it's something that's going to carry with you throughout all your stages of playing the game. So when I was in plat, that's where I said, okay, every single game, I'm going to do nothing but focus on my econ. When I VOD reviewed or when I looked at my previous recordings or when I was streaming and I wanted to see where things went wrong, I would look, where did I miss an econ interval? Where did I do this? I focused really hard on it because now I'm at a point where I know how to play the game, right? I know what comps to play. I know how to press D. I know how to press F. I know how to like buy units from the shop, right? We know how to do all of that, right? We know comps, we know what items are good on them. We watch maybe a guide or 2 on YouTube. We're ready to go. Now we got to focus on how do we actually make sure that we hit these units? How do we make sure that we're able to play the game? And that is focusing on econ. Where am I losing econ? Where am I making econ? Are the units I'm holding good? Are the units on my bench worth holding? Why am I holding these units on my bench if I'm not going to play them later, right? Try and learn that as you're going through it. Like that's the important part. Once you get better at econ, I strongly believe if you can out econ your lobby, you could typically smurf on everybody. If you have better econ management, you can basically get to masters just by out econing your lobby. Because if you just have more gold than everybody, you're just gonna like rail them because you're just gonna hit your board all the time, right? That's like literally how people smurf, is just like by econ managing. Because like you look at a smurf's board and they always have a better board than you. How is that? Is it because they're just lucky? No, the reason they have a better board is because they just out econ the lobby. The rest of the lobby is wasting their gold, not making econ intervals, throwing a bunch of shit on their board, and like the person who's like smurfing is just like managing all their econ, making 50 every round, go straight to level 8, roll down their gold, hit everything, and then just like delete the lobby. And it's like, oh, well, GG. That person's board looks insane. I wonder how they got it. It's with econ. But anyways, pick up any other comps that you're railed by. What I mean by this is if you get absolutely destroyed by a comp, let's say you're playing the game, right, and you get absolutely destroyed. Let's say you're playing, let's just go here, and let's say you play and this board just stops by and you just lose all your HP and you just get absolutely one shot. You have no chance of beating it. You're like, I don't know what the fuck just happened. That was the most insane board I've ever seen. Look at it. If that's the most insane board you've ever seen, that probably is a good board. Take note of it. Add it to your pool of boards that you can play. Make sure that you know it, so that going forward, you now have another tool in your toolkit, right? That you can look at it and say to yourself, I can play that because I figured out that comp is strong. A lot of times, like, you know, people focus on not playing the game and like learning from outside the game, right? Like you'll watch a YouTube video and some YouTuber will be like, this comp is strong, easy win, 10 out of 10, gain infinite LP. You know what's even more useful? If you get fucking destroyed in your game, don't like go to YouTube to figure out why you got destroyed. Look at your game at why you got destroyed. If you got destroyed and you look around and you're like, wow, that guy really beat my ass, that's probably a good comp. That will help you, right? And that's the stuff that makes sense. That's the stuff that will, like, you know, you don't have to like spend, like a lot of people think with TFT you have to spend all this extra time to invest in the game in order to improve at the game. It's like, no, just use your games efficiently, right? Whether you win or whether you lose, look at what other people are doing. That's a skill that you should definitely develop, and you should pay a lot of attention to it. As you get more familiar with the game, that you don't have to spend as much time in a round making your own decisions, look and try and figure out what other people's decisions are, because that's going to help you to improve. Also, I always say towards the end of plat, you can maybe start looking at stats. This is a stats website. Stats obviously like play rate, positioning, and all placements and those things. These are just numbers that help you to know what's strong and how things are performing based on what other people are doing. Like there's not even like on some websites, there's not even good stats until you're in plat, like plat plus. So it's like hard to say. And obviously they're going to change because like, you know, different levels of play, we'll see different things being strong because a lot of it's based on like what the players are doing, right? So here like Elise 3 is going to be really common, but Elise 3 is really hard to hit in a really high level lobby. So it's not going to be like as common as like just playing around Fast 9 because that's more of a relevant meta. And then a lot of these are like if you have a really good reroll spot, that's why they place really high. But a lot of it is like very confusing because, you know, if you ask anybody, they're gonna say Cypher is like the strongest comp in the game, right? If you ask anybody, they're gonna say Urgot's one of the strongest comps in the game. But as you can see, Urgot's not really placing that high here. So it's like, you know, it's kind of like you got to be careful about which comps you play and why you play them, because, and not just like look at just the stats, because you have to be able to justify and understand why the stats are a certain way. That's why I say a lot, like even in my thing, like if we look at my guide, I have a guide on stats, by the way, right? This one 3 months ago, you can read it or you can watch it. I always say when you're looking at these stats and stuff, you want to have a certain level of understanding of the game, which I can't gatekeep for you. I can't tell you, you know, you're not good enough for stats. That's just being like, you know, mean. But what I would say is that you really have to have a deep understanding of the game, or else you're just going to spend all your time looking at stats and like misguiding yourself. You're going to play things that are wrong because you're thinking the stats are meaning one thing when they actually mean something else, because there's a lot of complexity in TFT. And that's really important. So you want to have enough of a foundation that you're capable of doing that. So I would say don't look at stats until you're like plat 1 or like, what is it, like, you know, like emerald or like higher. When I was in plat, there was no emerald, so I was like, you know, plat 1 is when I started looking at stats. That's when I was like entering diamond, and then it was diamond master, right? So when I say that I looked at it in plat, it might be a little bit different from your experience, because now there's another degree of separation there. So be careful. But like I said, it's not even something that's super important. You can look for optimizations, but you have to be able to understand what you're looking at to parse the information properly. And like I said, I can't tell you when you get that skill set. You just have to have the confidence in yourself, and hopefully but I would delay it as much as possible, right? Before optimizing, I would delay as much as possible. Next, Emerald. So I usually rant about Emerald players. I'm probably gonna save the ranting for Masters players this time around, because holy fuck did I have a miserable time in Masters this set. But anyways, Emerald, something that's really important, right? We talked about all these different aspects of the game, right? We talked about learning comps. We talked about learning different aspects of the game. We talked about gaining econ management tools. We talked about, like, you know, how to play flexibly a little bit, right? Knowing 1 or 2 comps, knowing some reroll. Once you're an Emerald, everybody knows how to play the game. You're not fucking special. Like, I don't know what it is, but I don't know if it's because of League. I don't know what fucking game has like these ranked divisions where they just feel like you have a superiority complex, but it happens all the fucking time. And I don't know where the breaker point is, but there's always one point where somebody's like, I'm this rank, therefore I know how to play the game. And it's just a matter of being like slightly above average or something. And it's like, really, there's so much more to learn. Like the optimizations for TFT, especially as a strategy game, there is like so much separation between like somebody who's in like Challenger and somebody who's in Grandmaster. It's like absurd, the skill difference, because like I get to Grandmaster repeatedly, and I look at Challenger players and I'm mind blown sometimes at their decisions, being like, holy shit, man, these guys are gods, right? And I look at my own things and I say, I made a bunch of mistakes, I can try and improve. You always have to have that mindset, right? You're never complete in your learning journey, right? You're not a master or expert at anything, despite what your rank says. And it's really important to understand that you're with a bunch of other people that are the same fucking way. So like, make sure that you understand. Like, you know, if you're an Emerald and you're like, I know what all the best comps are, because if I look at the stats, this is the best comp. I know it's the best comp. I am an Emerald. It's like, it doesn't fucking matter. Everybody can open up the webpage by now, right? We all know what this comp looks like. The point is that you have to pilot yourself to that comp. That's what's the most important, right? And this applies more so in these higher ranks. Like as we get closer and closer to like peak ranks, it matters a lot, right? And you have to understand, oops, like, oh wait, this is related to this, but we'll go to this slide in a second, right? You want to know that comps, you want to play contested, right? You know, people are all like, you know, in previous ranks, a lot of times people might just be playing anything, right? They don't know what's good, what's bad. A lot of times they might just be picking their favorite comp. They might be picking their favorite unit from League and just playing it in TFT and hoping that like lets them live their fantasy in a new way, right? There's casual players and stuff, right? But as you get into a lower and lower sample size of players, as you climb higher and higher, there's going to be less and less players in a given lobby, and they're all going to be more and more skilled. They're going to start to play the good comps. If you think that you know what a good comp is, everybody knows what a good comp is. So you're going to have to learn to play contested. You have to understand, can I pivot? Can I actually play this? Is my spot good? Am I the better player? These are things that start to matter more and more as you rank up. And it starts to make the game a little bit less fun, because as you do this, you also have to optimize the comps. So sometimes, certain units become quote unquote unclickable or unplayable, and things become more like you have to play a certain subset of comps. That's true and wrong at the same time. I think some people hyperbolize it and some people don't hyperbolize it enough. It's actually usually in the middle. Every TFT set that I've played so far, it usually comes down to, like, unless the patch is really unbalanced and degenerate, that there are lots of playable comps. They work towards balancing that, and a lot of it is the difficulty of figuring out which comp you have the best spot for. And that's something that you have to start to learn when you're in Emerald, right? The thing that matters the most, though, is that you want to be the better player every game. Don't just blame the game when things go wrong. Look at your game. Was your positioning better than everybody else? Was your econ better than everybody else? Were the comps you were playing better than everybody else's? Were the augments you picked better than everybody else's? You always want to look and see that you are the best player. If you're the best player, you will continue to rank up. That is the truth. If you're not the best player, why are you not the best player? If you look at your spot and you're like, wow, my econ is way worse than that other guy's econ, there you go. Bang. That's how you improve. Done. If that person is like 10 gold richer than you, how are they 10 gold richer than you? Did they just pull the gold out their bum? No, it's like they did something that made them richer at the one point, right? How does that person have all their units? Of course, maybe it is just luck. That's fine as well. You could argue that, but you still want to focus on the things that you could improve, because, that's part of the game. Also, understanding different now it's not as much of understanding certain like what's good and what's bad, but you have to understand themes a lot as you start to rank up, right? Something that I bring up a lot is item pairs and item prioritizations. You don't just want to say, this is what the guide says, therefore I'll play it, right? We're bringing back that aspect of it. A lot of time people use websites and guides and even my own content, right? There's people that just, I see the watch time retention, right? I spend a whole fucking 30 minutes explaining when and why to play a comp, and I see the watch time. There's a giant spike right when I show the fucking team planner, and then it falls off right after the spike. People just click to see what the video says, what items I should make. They probably just screenshot and they get the fuck out of my videos. And it's like, that's not what you want to do. You want to be able to understand what works thematically, right? What does this unit want? Do they want crit? Do they want damage amp? Do they want attack speed? Do they want mana? And then make decisions based on your spot. You're never going to have the perfect scenarios. It's very rare. Most of the time, you're fumbling. You're just fumbling your way through the game until things hopefully work out. And that's TFT. You just like, you just try and get things to work. So you have to understand the themes. You have to look at your spot and say, oh, am I playing for win streak? Am I playing for lose streak? Do I slam items? Do I not slam items? Are the items that I slam here going to punish me earlier or later? And a lot of this that I talk about it in, like I said, in one of my guides, right? When we talk about items as well, right? I talk about it a lot here. My item guide, full series, really good, but it was a little bit outdated because it's from a couple sets ago. I'll try and make a new one for this set. It was just really, or next set, because this set was really awkward. But like, think about like stuff like these, like item pairs. What pairs work out really good together, right? Diminishing returns, understanding that. These are things that are going to matter a lot more than just knowing this is strong, this is weak. I don't make anything except this, because if you don't have that item, then you just shoot yourself in the foot. And it matters a lot the same thing with like pairs, units, synergies, what boards you're playing, etc. Play the comps that you have the best spot for. That's the only thing I'll always say, right? There's some people that just one trick and force something every single time. I think that it's really degenerate, and it really just comes down to if your lobby is going to punish you or not. You should always play what you have the best spot for. If somebody else contests you, force them to pivot because you have the better spot. But if you're contesting somebody else and you have a worse spot than them, it's like, it's not going to end well, because even if you hit, you're probably still going to go bot 4 because you don't have a good spot for the comp. One thing that I always want to mention, I'm going to mention around now, Science TFT rank might not be good for you, or might not be for you. This is something that I always say, right? There's a lot of people they just spew bullshit excuses constantly in my comments. It's so annoying, right? It's like they play TFT rank and then they're like, it's just a slot machine. There's no skill. It's RNG. Or they'll say something like, what can I spam to rank up fast? I don't want to rank up slow. I want to rank up fast. And this is correct. I know the best thing ever. There's no other options. You're wrong. No. First of all, a game is a game for fun, right? If you just want to rank up fast, this isn't the channel for you. This is a channel about learning the game, right? When you learn the game, it takes time. And if you want to rank up fast, the people that rank up fast is because you have a good skill set, or the patch has a degenerate exploit, right? And I'm not here to look for degenerate exploits so I can pretend that I'm good at the game because I played one comp that was good for one patch and I gained a bunch of LP because I pulled an all-nighter when everybody was asleep and I just instantly ranked up. That's not the point of TFT to me, right? If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Do that. I don't care, right? But in my opinion, if you're looking for a rank up guide, that's not the point of rank up in TFT. It's learning and being the better player, right? If you're the better player, you will rank up fast next set. You'll rank up fast every single time. You know why? Because you're just going to be better than everybody else because you'll manage your econ better. You'll play your comps better. You'll make your items better, right? The same people are challenger every single set. It's not RNG. They actually have skill. There's a lot of skill expression in TFT. Now, some sets are really fucking shitty. Like, I didn't like this set because of encounters and the general RNG nature of the main set mechanic. So I didn't have a lot of fun, and I think there was a lot more RNG than not. Yes, it's true, but that still isn't an excuse. You can still rank up. You can still do good. It's a matter of harnessing the abilities that give you the best chance of success, and that's what's important. So if you're struggling to come to a conclusion in that sense, and you're just upset and taking it out and using phrases like these are like giant alarm bells for me. That's like, maybe you should just play a different game, because like, instead of like, you know, coming to this guide, maybe, because like, obviously if you're at this guide, I assume none of you are repeatedly spamming this in like Reddit posts, but like, you know, that's the whole point. Learning is fun, right? Anyways, let's talk about being diamond, right? So now, when you're in diamond, we've already talked about a lot of different aspects of the game, and I talked about how I kind of learned them at each stage of the game. When you're going from diamond to master, master is like the last major cutoff where it becomes like an absolute shit show. So diamond, a lot of times, in my opinion, ends up being really like sweaty. It becomes like really like try hard, which I always find really fun, right? I think my experience going from diamond to, like, emerald is usually like annoying. Diamond to master, if you're like doing a regular ranked journey, is usually a little bit more fun in my opinion, because everybody's trying really hard, so it makes sense. Like, you can see the energy and the enjoyment, and it's like, yep, this is TFT, this feels great. A lot of what happens in diamond is optimization. So this is where things like stats start to matter. Things like the nuances of different comps start to matter. You want to make sure that you get the most out of everything that you do in the game, right? You have to understand matchups. Where does the positioning matter? How do I put my units in different hexes? Where do the units matter the most? Where should they matter? Where should they be in order to matter? You have to learn about augment choices, right? Am I taking augments that make me strong? Augments that make me weak? Can I afford this augment? Can I greed for this augment? Do I take a strong augment now? Do I want to take something that just gives me pure tempo? Am I playing for a first? Am I playing for a second? Am I playing for a third? Am I playing for a fourth? Do I know this game is fucked and I'm just playing for a fifth to make sure I don't lose a lot of LP? You have to understand your win cons and your lobby strength. Does that person look like they win the game? If you're in diamond and you see somebody and they start the game with 2-1 cipher, assume they win the game. You are playing for at best second. Every decision that you make should be that you're playing for second, not for first. If you happen across a first, go for it, but you have to be able to look at around you and say to yourself, what am I doing here? What am I playing for? And that's all about optimizing. That's all about understanding the exact nuances that will give you the best foot forward. That's what matters the most when you're in diamond. Like I said before, at this point, everybody knows what's strong. Everybody knows how to play the game. You're not going to find some special thing that's like unique to you that you figured out that's going to be stronger than everything else. Maybe you do, but for the most part, you have to just be the better player. You have to look at your spot and you have to say, how could I suck this spot for every bit of LP possible? How can I get the maximum placement in this game? And look at your placement and say at the end of the game, was that the best placement I should have gotten? Am I the third strongest person in the lobby? No. So did I manage my HP well enough? Yes or no? Did I manage my econ well enough? Yes or no? And you have to look at those things and you have to optimize it to a point where you always are getting the maximum LP that you can. And that's how you rank up in diamond. It becomes very easy so long as you're not playing degenerately and you're actually like focusing on those things, right? You also want to properly understand how to high cap a board. If you have a good spot, you want to convert it to a first. There's a lot of times when I'm playing a game, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a first. And you have to know how to cap the board. For example, Dynamo Aurora, right? Like, we'll take this as an example. When we're playing around Dynamo Aurora in this set, or Dynamo, right? Dynamo, a lot of times you'll see it, like, you know, you'll have a board that looks like this, right? Sometimes on your stage 8 or your level 8, right, you won't have as strong of a board, so instead you're going to be playing something like, you know, 4 Vanguard or 4 Bruiser or something like that, and you play like a Braum and this, right? And a lot of this board comes around to optimizing it later, right? This 4 Vanguard, it's not going to be as good as swapping out everybody for legendary units, right? If you can play all the legendary units, your board's going to be a lot stronger, right? So it's really important to understand, like, how can I properly cap this board given my certain circumstances, right? Do I want to play like these units, right? Do I have a spot to play these units? Can I actually become strong enough to hit this board, etc., right? This is like a very clear-cut example, but there's versions of boards with every single variation, right? You have to know, what is my level 9? What is my high cap? Can I reach that high cap? Do I just roll for at least 3 on level 8 and I just hope for the best and I just play for placements, right? These are things that matter a lot, so you have to understand the nuances of every single board. I try my best to go over it on my channel, of course. I'm gonna keep saying on my channel because I don't know how else to say it, because I'm not gonna like repeat everything that is in a guide already. But like on these, I talk a lot about like, hey, how do I optimize whatever. I even have a guide on optimizing for like diamond level players or anything. Yeah, look, there's a guide that came out 4 months ago about optimizing, but I think this one's old. There might be this one, yeah, a month ago, board optimizations, right? Like, these are things that you want to learn because you want to make sure that you're not ever leaving LP on the table. Now, let's talk about Master to Grandmaster. So just as a general note, when you're in any of these other ranks, basically there can be any number of player in any of the ranks. The idea is that it's a certain LP, and that LP determines what your rank is. Like if you're 100 LP diamond 4, then you get if you're 90 LP diamond 4 and you gain 10 LP, then you're diamond 3. It's like a ladder system. Once you get to Grandmaster or Master, once you get to Master, there is no more breakpoints. The breakpoints are entirely dependent on your server and the players in your server. So for example, what does it mean to be Grandmaster? In Grandmaster, the top 750 people, so based on how much LP you have, the top 750 players in NA are considered to be Grandmaster, and Challenger is the top 250 in NA. So it does not matter what your LP is, it is entirely dependent on the people around you. How many people have how much LP, that is what you need to do in order to make it to Grandmaster or Challenger. It is entirely dependent on being better than your peers. So this is where it becomes really challenging, because if you are not better than your peers, there is no way to scam your way up, because obviously some sets, the Grandmaster threshold is really high. This is a picture of last set Grandmaster. Last set, to be Grandmaster, you had to have over 600 LP. It was absurdly high because it's a very popular set. It was the Arcane set. Everybody was playing it. I think there was also an LP inflation bug at the beginning of the set, but I might be wrong about that. It might have been the set previous. I'm not sure. But either way, it was a lot of LP. So in order for me to get to the Grandmaster cutoff to be ranked number 669 last set, I think I peaked at top 500. I think I was like I think I peaked at like 498 or something, like number 498, meaning that there's only at last set at least, there was only like 400 better players than me, or 497 players that are better than me, that have higher LP than me, right? That's what Grandmaster means. So this is, like I said, a screenshot of last set, because I want to show you how much LP it was. It was actually pretty high. This set's a lot lower. It's like 400 or something. But that's the idea. So in order to be Grandmaster, you have to be within, like, basically, like, the way I see it is that you have to be in NA at least, right? If you're playing on NA server, which NA server has a lot of Smurfs from other regions, by the way, but we're not going to get into it because I don't want to have a discussion on which server is like the hardest server. But just know that NA is not a fucking free server. It's arguably the hardest, if not one of the hardest. You know, rank it like 10th or whatever, I don't care, but it is a hard server. But the idea is that you have to be the best at every single aspect of the game relative to those players. So right now, if you look at my rank, if I'm in Grandmaster, it means that there are 750 players that are probably better than me, that are better at managing econ, better at knowing comms, better at playing their spots, whatever. Everybody else doesn't matter to me. They're like, you know what I mean? Like that's like the idea or the mindset that you should have. So if you're having that mindset, first of all, if you're in Masters, I'm gonna say it as it is. Fix your fucking attitude. I'm not going to show off all the people that insulted me, but I have screenshots of every person that insulted me and their accounts, and I have them in a little folder with the VOD of them being absolute fucking degenerates and target griefing me. And I swear to God, if I ever become famous enough that Riot actually communicates with me, because I'm not, you know, everybody else, they get to test set 15 early. They get to do all their cool YouTube videos ahead of mine. Riot doesn't know that I fucking exist, and Riot doesn't care about me. But if Riot ever contacts me, I'm gonna send them the dossier of all these fucking jackasses in Masters. Holy shit, fix your fucking attitude. It's so tilting. Now, I'm gonna explain what the problem is, right? I swear to God, most Masters level players, because there's no more of a break point, you end up getting stuck a lot at 0 LP or relatively low LP Masters. And those players, sometimes it just like wears away at you and you just play like thousands of games. I'm not even joking, like there was a person that was just target griefing me and they had like 1,000 games on their account. 1,000. Imagine playing 1,000 games of TFT. It's crazy. And they're just hard stuck 0 LP Masters, 1,000 games. And the idea is that, like, you don't want to ever be tilt queuing. You don't want to ever be just, like, playing the game and just, like, not enjoying yourself or purposely ruining other people's experience. Because you're not going to rank up anyways, if that's your thing, right? The biggest thing, I noticed, like, I think Diamond players have better mental than most of the Masters players. Because at least the Diamond players are striving for something. They still try and make good decisions. There's so many times where people aren't making good decisions in lobbies. I look at them, I'm like, I'm ashamed that this is supposed to be the higher echelon of players. These Masters players are playing like worse than like Emerald players. They're just hard forcing something they have no good of a spot for, just playing on pure tilt. I don't know. Maybe they went to school and they asked somebody out and she said no, and they're taking it out on me for some reason because I'm deciding to play like fucking Zeri, and like, I don't know, like this guy's just holding my Zeris for no, I don't know, right? I don't know, right? I remember I played a game of Brand Nico a couple patches ago, and some guy held 6 Nikos on his bench while he was playing Anima Squad. Guess what his placement was? Guess what his LP is now? I checked today. Hardstuck 0 LP Master. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Anyways, you want to make sure that you're always making good decisions. That's just a first thing, right? I swear, if most of the players in Masters could hit Grandmaster if they just had better mental. Like, genuinely, there's so many players that I look at and I'm like, they have such a good spot for something else, but their mental is holding them back and they're just target griefing or doing something stupid that does not fit their board. It does not make sense with their spot. And if they just like fix their mental, they would probably do better. That's like a really important thing to know. So just always keep that in mind, right? Your life isn't over because you lost a game and you're 0 LP. You can just gain it all back. I've been hard stuck before and I made Grandmaster. You know what I mean? It's not that hard. You just have to like focus up and figure out what your mistakes are. The same thing we were talking about before, right? Additionally, if you're trying to make it to Grandmaster, this is the good barometer. Let's say you're a brand new player and you're looking at my videos and you're looking at my content. You should be able to do everything that I can do. Genuinely, I think that I am an average Grandmaster player. I don't think I'm Challenger. I don't have an inflated ego. I don't think I'm better than everybody else. I think that there's lots for me to learn. You can see in my VODs, I post my VOD reviews, and I make tons of mistakes in my VODs. There's tons of stuff I can improve on, but I point out those mistakes, and I own up to them and say, look at this mistake, right? What you want to be able to do is everything that I can do. Every single time I talk about a comp, and I talk about optimizations, and I talk about what items are best, and I talk about when to slam what, and I talk about all of these things, everything that I say as an average Grandmaster player, if you want to be Grandmaster, you should be able to recreate everything without even seeing my content. That is the truth. If you're spending all your time copying what I'm doing, eventually you're not gonna be able to copy me anymore, because like you need to have a certain level of skill. But the point that I'm trying to make is that this is what it looks like, right? The amount of knowledge that I have about the different aspects of the game, all the guides that I made, this is common knowledge. If you ask any Challenger player what I say on my guides, I guarantee you they'll be like, yeah, this is all basic. If you ask any Grandmaster player about my guides, they'll be like, yeah, this is all pretty basic. But if anything that I'm showing you is new, or like, I never thought of that, or wow, that's crazy, or I didn't know this was strong, that's a problem. That means that you're not there yet, right? You have to be able to do this on your own. That's like the main thing that I would say, going from Master to Grandmaster. Now, that's like a really cop-out way of saying it. But the idea is that you just want to be the better player in your lobby all the time, like same as before in Masters. But you also want to be able to just understand everything to a deep enough level, have enough of a meta read, understand the comps well enough that you can optimize on the fly, that you can innovate on the fly, that you can understand which spot you have, which comp is better for what spot, and based on your opener and your mid game, what you should be committing to. These are all things that cannot be taught in a guide. I cannot tell you, oh, you just have to know what to play. It's like that only comes from experience, and that only comes from playing a lot of games. You have to understand so much about the nuances of what happens from stage 2 all the way till stage 4 in order for you to understand what you're committing to and what you're playing for. And if you're ever playing a game and you're like, I don't know what I should be playing here, that's a sign that you need to figure out what you should be playing there. Why don't you know what you're playing at one point in the game? You should always have an idea. You should always have an inkling. You should always have an understanding. And if things work out, adjust it. If things don't work out, adjust it, right? Make sure that you're always at a point where you're knowledgeable about what's going on in order to properly reach some sort of higher level of gameplay. That's like the main thing. That's the main thing you should always be looking for. Additionally, you have to understand each comp, right? Choices, items, fine details, right? It's not enough to just know how a comp works or know how a comp is. It's like, why does it work this way? Why is it strong this way? Why are these things happening? Why is this the thing? If somebody tells you, hey, you need to put this item here and this item here, understand why those items go there. A lot of times, like, you know, people will like look at different websites or they'll look at even my own guides, and sometimes they're outdated. I try and update them every single time. If I'm ever wrong about something, I make a new guide. But you have to be able to, like, on your own, be able to look at your spot. Like, there are so many times where I play Xeri and I don't slam Guinzu. You know what I mean? That's like optimizations that, like, you know, it's like the HP is more important and Strikers is good enough, right? She has enough attack speed, right? My augments are good. And like, if I show my board to somebody who's like, you know, not at that level, they're gonna look at my board, they'd be like, how can you not make Guinzu on Xeri? Isn't that like your best item? I'm gonna be like, no, it's not. It's fucking trash. Like, you know what I mean? It's like stuff like that. But it's like, they sound absurd sometimes, but like, if you look at the games that I played, it's like, of course, that was like the correct decision. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's the level you have to be at. You have to just be able to, like, obviously, that also, I don't want to sound pompous, right? The example I was giving wasn't to flex or anything. Like, obviously, I'm just saying, like, you know, the things that you do have to be so rooted in justification that you know when to break the rules. That's the idea. You have to know when to break the rules. I'll write that in letters because I think that's thing, right? When to break rules. Right? This is important, right? This is the whole thing, right? That's what I'm trying to get at. You have to know when you can break the rules, not just like know what the rules are and how to play around the rules. You have to know when you can do absurd things as well, because that's what's going to matter the most. It's just saving every little bit of HP, every little bit of LP. Of course, be the better player. Additionally, subscribe and watch the YouTube videos. I don't know. I say everything I do and everything I think. This is really important for some people, right? I don't know what it is, but like sometimes I'm in my videos and I'm like, I don't think this comp is particularly strong, or I think this comp is really strong. And then somebody just comments and they're like, you're wrong. I don't think I trust you. Vigar is broken. You just don't know how to play it. And I'm like, my brother in Christ, like, I don't give a fuck. If you don't want to listen to me, don't come here and ask me how to get to Grandmaster. There's so many people, I see so many comments where I say something like, I don't think this is a good idea, it's very risky and I wouldn't play it. And then somebody 3 videos says you're stupid, and then 3 videos later, the same person is like, hey, I'm hard stuck and I can't get out. Any tips? And it's like, bro, like, do you want me to get a fucking document? Like, hello, like, look at your comment history. Like what, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be rude or something, but it's like, you always have to be open to learning, right? If you want to ask me genuinely, how did I get to Grandmaster? How do I get to Grandmaster every set? This is how. Like, every single day, I post a video explaining exactly what I do. Like, I'm not even joking. Every single day, I post a video saying exactly what I do. I don't lie in these videos, right? I don't make a video, and none of these are clickbait. Like, there's a clickbait arrow, but that's just because I'm trying my best to keep up with the rest of the YouTubers that have fucking clickbait thumbnails and clickbait titles and all that shit. But every single one of my videos, I explain exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, right? I say, I like this, I like that. I don't like this comp. I like this comp. I like this optimization. I play like this. Like, I don't know. Like, watch the videos, I guess. Okay? Like, or just watch this video and just never watch my videos again. I don't know what to tell you. All right. Lastly, because the video's getting a little bit long because I've kind of going off the rails and ranting a little bit towards the end. But I'll talk a little bit about my rank journey this set, and I'll try to explain it, and then you can kind of see like how things kind of went for me, and then we'll end the video with that. All right, I think that's like a nice way of doing it, because now I can be very vulnerable and I can show exactly all my games and my LP and all of that stuff. So this is me right now. Like I said, I didn't enjoy the set a lot. How can you tell that I didn't enjoy this set? I played probably the least amount of games I've played in any set. I think the only other set that I played this few games was set 11, which I also hated. And set 11, I was still in Masters. Yeah, I played like less than 400. But like all the other sets, I played a lot of games, right? Like last set, I played like 600. But the idea is that I just tried to play as few as possible. This set was very challenging for me for a lot of reasons. So if I go to all, basically the first 2 weeks of the set, my computer broke. So I basically tried to play my placements. My computer got fried because a thunderstorm had a power surge, and my computer the motherboard got broken, right? Fried during the thunderstorm. So for the first 2 weeks of the set, so the first patch, I wasn't able to play at all. That meant that I just wasn't able to rank up. I wasn't able to do anything. That's why there's this plateau here. I played 1 game, 2 games on stream, and then the 3rd game, in the middle of the game, my computer broke, so my placements went poorly, right? So that's why I was silver for 2 weeks, right? As soon as I got my computer fixed, I played a bunch, and then I took a break, and I played a little bit more, and I took a break, right? This is after the patch 2, right? And then I tried to rank up a little bit, and then you'll see that there's this large portion here where I had a bunch of breaks. This is the entire month of May. During May, I was doing anime convention, so I was doing my art that I was putting on display. So I was spending all this time doing art. I was actually sawing wood and making these lanterns, right? So that's why I wasn't playing TFT. So basically, a lot of this set, majority of the set actually, like basically a whole month and a half almost, was just spent to me just dealing with life issues. I only really started to play these last couple of patches, and even then I took these large breaks because I just didn't enjoy the set and I wasn't having fun. So as you can see, this, like, some of it's a hard stock, like this part I was just a little bit hard stock. It was mostly like learning and experimenting. And then this as well. So I just tried to like get to Grandmaster just so I can say I was Grandmaster. I don't think this is particularly amazing, right? I should be around like 600 LP, right? Similar to last set. I think that I can rank up a lot more. I felt like none of these games were particularly hard, and a lot of it was just like trying to get it, just so that I can say on my YouTube that I'm Grandmaster, because a lot of people care about that. I remember at the beginning of the set, I had people coming into my Discord when my computer broke, right? I didn't have a functioning computer. And I said in my videos, I don't have a functioning computer. I can't play right now. And people were coming into my videos and saying, I don't trust this guy because I looked up his rank and it says that he's not Grandmaster right now. And I'm like, bro, I can't play. Like, come on. Like if you don't trust my guys, I don't know what to tell you. Like, what do you want from me? Right? And that's how people kind of are. They kind of like are very like biased towards like not listening to what people say, like even if I say something logical. So I just felt like I had to do it. That's the thing. It's like a job for me. So it's like, okay, I have to at least hit Grandmaster, right? Now this is like peak Grandmaster. I think last set I was like well within Grandmaster. I was a lot more comfortable, but you know, just achieving the rank. So that's why I just kind of grinded out at the end, right? Let's talk a little bit about the bad stuff, right? A lot of this is tilt, right? This part especially, this was when I was the most tilted. I was screaming a lot on stream. You guys can go watch those streams if you wanted to see them, but I just didn't enjoy this patch at all. And a lot of it was also experimenting. A lot of these are like after patches, just experimenting with different comps and limit testing. Because I didn't play that much here and here, I didn't get to try out a lot of the comps. And as a YouTuber, I personally need to like say what comps are good, what comps are bad. So a lot of times I spent a lot of time practicing and trying out different comps, right? A lot of these loses are like playing Graves reroll and understanding what the limits are for how good Graves is, or what the limits are for how good Zeri is, or what the limits are for like how good Dynamo is. That's where I kind of lost a lot of my LP, was like limit testing different scenarios to make the guides on my videos, right? Because when I do like how to play guides, right, that's why I say, hey, this is risky, this is not risky. A lot of it is from like, not these ones, I'm trying to find it, how to play, like I guess this section, right? Like when I do those, it's because I basically play a lot of those comps to make sure that I understand how to play them, and that's where this comes through. But a lot of it is also tilt, right? If I wasn't tilted, I probably could have hit Grandmaster over here and just quit the set early. But instead, I kind of had to wait till the end and just kind of scam it on the last patch. This patch also was amazing for me, by the way, because it was like the perfect meta for me. This is exactly what I like to play, where there's like a couple fast 9 comps that are strong, and a lot of it comes down to evaluating your spot and playing for like top 4s. I scammed so many firsts just from like better playing in the lobby, so like this was just great. Other thing that's really important with patches, by the way, is also like when you're ranked up journey. This is what I say about optimization and mitigating losses. You'll see a lot of times where I go on lose streaks, right? I'm not perfect. I'm not like the god of playing that I just win every single game instantly. I go on lose streaks, lots of lose streaks, right? But look at these lose streaks. Look at them. I'm just going 5th every game because I'm playing around my spot and I'm trying to make sure that I mitigate the losses, right? This could easily be tilted, me playing a comp that I don't have a good spot for and just going 8th, 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 8th. Of course I'm not going to rank up. But instead, you can see, I just build it right back, right? I played like 5 games, a little bit frustrating, but even if I have a bad spot, I'm able to like convert it. And then after like add a lose streak, add a little bit of an awkward streak, then RNG, if you lose, you lose, you lose, eventually you start winning. And then I just won all of these games, and GG, I'm a Grandmaster, easy clap, not even hard, right? If you look at what I'm playing, right, some of the games I'm playing some whack shit, even in the current patch, right? But a lot of it is just understanding placements, right? I'm playing Vex. I understand that I need a placement here. I played Mundo. This game I felt really sorry for. I actually griefed another Mundo player, this guy that went 7th. I feel sorry for the guy. I apologize. But basically what ended up happening was he didn't scout and I didn't scout, but my spot was better for the comp because I had he had no scout, no pivot, and I had Starry Night, and my items were just really bad for anything else because I had AP items, so I just had to grief it. But either way, I just went for 4th. Sorry dude, I hope we don't I try not to grief ever. I had no other options really. There was another guy playing LeBlanc, I couldn't even pivot. But anyways, a lot of these other games, right, some games you have a spot for a first, like Cypher. Other games I'm just salvaging the game. Like, I'm just playing, like, Slayer Shaco or some bullshit, right? This game didn't work out because it was a Garen encounter. But that's, like, what I'm doing a lot of the time. Is, like, you don't see a lot of Urgot and Dynamo because I'm just playing consistently, right? When I can play Dynamo, I play Dynamo. When I can play Urgot, I try to play Urgot. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it does work out. But always just try and make sure you're optimizing and playing the spots that you have and the comps that you're good for, right? Additionally, I feel like I could have played a lot more. If you look at my my stats for the entire patch, I felt like I got first the most. This is a little bit uncommon. I should have played more this set because I definitely could have ranked up a little bit more because I felt like even at my highest peak, I was still going first way too much, which I think is like usually should be a little bit more averaged out. So, it is what it is. But I think that's just because like I kind of smurfed up here and smurfed up here, so my first rate is a little bit too high. But anyways, that's my rank journey. So hopefully that was helpful to look at in some way, shape, or form. But the idea that I just wanted to show, I want to just illustrate how things went for me. Tell you guys about how like I'm tilting. You can see it in my graph, how things go poorly. You should look at your own rank graph and see how things go, right? Look at what things you can work on. Look at what comps you're playing. Look at what you're placing with those comps. Look at how you're doing with those comps, right? See what the average is for those comps. And then like, eventually you'll just hit your rank, whatever. But like I said, I just don't care enough to play around this patch or this set. So that's why I'm not continuing to play. I just hit Grandmaster. I said I call it a day. I don't care, right? It's fine. But anyways, thanks for watching. There's not gonna be a part 2 because it's usually I do a part 2 where I talk about like some of the comps to climb and stuff. We're not gonna do that because instead I'm just gonna focus on set 15. I'll probably do another one of these guides for set 15, and maybe I'll make a separate guide about getting hard stock, like an updated one when set 15 comes out. But hopefully this ranked guide was a little bit of a help. Usually it's a little bit more of a popular video, but I do just want to like kind of explain every step along the way, give you guys some working tool tips, and then also talk about my own journey and how things kind of work. The main thing also, especially when you start to get better at the game, just don't be tilted. Don't like spend a lot of your time like ruining your own experience and other people's experience, because TFT, it's a game that's meant to be fun and you're supposed to play it to be fun. So, do that, right? Have fun. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a great day and see ya. Bye-bye.